Hey everybody, it's Amy Head with New Perspectives for Life in Marietta, Georgia, and it's time for our micro-minute strategy to help with our mental health, our perspective, our mindset, our success, our goals, all kinds of things. We're doing these micro-minute strategies every day for the entire year, and today is day 10. We are on January 10th, so it's our 10th strategy for the year. And today we're going to be doing a micro-minute strategy on how to manage resentment, how to reset resentment. This whole month of January, we're focusing on resetting things that might be creeping in like they always do into a new year. And we'd really like to kind of move beyond them or have more power over them. And I feel like resentment is a good one to focus on because we all have some level of resentment for something, whether it's resentment of some action of a total stranger, or maybe it's some history with a family member or a friend, or maybe it's something in the world that's going on and we just have some resentment there. And it's a natural thing to have. It kind of comes out of, feeling angry or frustrated or feeling done wrong on some level in some way. But the thing about resentment is once the event that creates our anger or frustration passes, if we're still holding on to that resentment, which is sort of the human thing to do. But if we're doing that over time, it really just takes a lot of our energy and our power away that we could actually be accessing to help move us forward in our own journey, in our own goals, and for lots of things that are better for us. So if you feel like resentment is something you struggle with, like maybe generally you don't, but there's these one or two things that kind of just stick with you, or maybe you do kind of have a resentful personality around things because honestly, there's just been a lot of things that have gone on. I hope this will be helpful for you. So if you look up the root words of resentment, it's really interesting because it means to basically feel again. It's which means again, and then sentir, I think it comes from the French word, means to feel. And so it means to feel again. And when I was doing some research on this word a while back, it was interesting because resentment is always something negative. And I started wondering, what's the word for when you feel something again that was good, that you felt good about? And I couldn't really find the word. I would come up with the word reminisce because it means to rethink again, but it doesn't really talk about it the same way. And reminiscing can also have some bittersweetness to it because you're thinking about days gone by or maybe when times were better and you're reminiscing about the old days, that kind of thing. So it's an interesting word, resentment, but the thing that we can think about today for our micro-minute strategy is if basically resentment means to feel again. And what we continue to feel again is negative or is hurt or pain, something that doesn't bring us any joy or any feeling of good. We don't want to keep feeling it again and again and again. That's that resentment, right? So I think resetting that to something different that's better for us is just helpful overall. There is a little bit of a piece, I think, that goes with this where sometimes we don't want to let go of that resentment because then it feels like we're kind of letting go of whatever it was that hurt us, and we don't really want to let that go because we kind of want to keep proving that this was not good for us or it wasn't fair or whatever. But again, ultimately, whoever created this resentment probably isn't living with it 24/7 in their head, taking their power away in the same way that we're taking our power away by having it keep coming up and up and up. So what we want to think about is, what can we do with that emotion? Because if you have it, it's probably valid. I mean, there's probably reasons for it. We just don't want it to have so much power now, even if it was something that happened yesterday, but especially if it was something that happened a few months ago, a year ago, or a long time ago. So if we want to reset resentment, I think what we can think about is when we think of the word resentment, I already talked a little bit about what that means, but it's also kind of along the lines of the word sentiment. And the word sentiment focuses on how I'm feeling now. What are your sentiments now about this situation? So we can reset our resentment to sentiment. Does that make any sense? Okay, so here's an example. All right, so let's say we have resentment about somebody always being critical of the way you do something. Maybe it's at home with your spouse or partner, maybe it's at work with a boss or a coworker, but there's constant criticism. and you're starting to really resent that, or maybe you do resent that because it's just frustrating. What you can do is, in the brain for this micro minute, you can say to yourself, I have a lot of resentment about always being criticized by this person, but my sentiment for today, this is where the reset comes in. My sentiment for today is that while I don't like that, I'm not going to let it control me today. That doesn't mean I'm going to let that person off the hook and they can just be critical all they want. What it means is I'm not going to give their criticism power over me. I'm not going to give that resentment that I have power over my day today. So you have to be very deliberate and intentional to look at this as a power grab for you versus letting somebody off the hook. So let me just say, like, okay, let's say you have a boss, and the boss is constantly criticizing you, can't do anything right. Every time you give 110%, it feels like it's 70% to them. At some point, unless you leave the job, if you're going to stay there, at some point you cannot let that resentment build and build and build, because it's not good for you. So what you can say is, I am fully aware that I have resentment toward my boss for always being so nitpicky and critical. And in this moment, I'm going to have the sentiment that that person doesn't rule my world, and I know I do good work, and they can think what they want. I won't be insubordinate, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day. So it kind of just gives the power back to you in that moment. We're not going to probably change the circumstances that have created resentment for us. We're probably not going to change the people unless we cut them out of our lives. We're probably not going to change the situation unless we leave it somehow. So we want to think about, how do I grab my power back from this resentment that is having too much power on my energy, my emotions, my motivation, my own psychological well-being. All right. So the micro minute is, set your timer. Think about a situation that is creating resentment for you. Set your timer and honestly take that 1 minute to tell yourself, I am resentful about this person or this situation, and even validate it. I have reason to be. My resentment is valid, but I'm going to reset my resentment today, right now, into something that is going to serve me better right now. I'm going to reset my resentment into a sentiment that serves me better. And so you just take that minute to think of one thing. Maybe you want to make a list of the things that you have been resentful of, or that you're holding resentment for. Make a list and then take one at a time. Set the timer. Tell yourself, I have resentment about this, but I'm going to reset my resentment into a sentiment about this. And as you do that, the brain begins to release the power around the resentment and gives the power back to you. I hope this is helpful. If this is confusing in any way, let me know. Shoot some comments down below or message me directly. But the main thing is to reset that resentment into a sentiment that works better for you. All right, guys, that's our micro minute strategy for today. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you tomorrow.